Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from Art Alien TV and artalien.tv. I don't know what kind of creature or person or whatever this is supposed to represent. It's very strange. We've got teeth detail here, a very large chin. This may actually be a rock in front of it. Sometimes we get these rocks obscuring details, so that may be partly a rock there. Don't know. But you can see two eyes and a kind of big sort of wide nose and an irregular mouth. I've got the Gigapan up here to show you that the Gigapan's not in colour, it's in black and white. There are loads of weird fragments here, okay? This is at Mount Sharp. It's littered with architectural fragments, skulls, carvings, the odd fossil, like the flower or plant we saw recently, about a week ago. There's loads of weird stuff here, and not all of it is ancient. Some of it may be living, okay? Here's the skull up here on the ridge. It's very strange. If I show you with the magnifier, there it is. You can see teeth there, very irregular. So this looks like it's fossilized or mineralized, okay? But the chin is a bit dodgy, and that looks like it's a rock in front there, just there. So not a great deal of detail there. Unfortunately, it's quite a long way from the rover. And it's quite big. I would say this is large. It's not quite giant, but it's, I would say, the human skull's around 9 inches, male skull. This is probably almost double that, I would say, about 15 or even 18 inches. So it's large. This is a long way off, and it still looks quite large. So it could even be 2 foot. Now, I have shown many skulls in this area, and in Jezero Crater, which are very large, and they often are around 2 feet tall, which is way, way bigger than ours. Huge. So it may be one of the giants, okay? But I can't tell you exactly how big it is, but it's not human size. It's way bigger. Loads of weird stuff here, so check that out. That's Sol 3390, okay? This is Sol 3398, okay? This is a very recent set. And what we have here is some amazingly complex and interesting fragments and piles of stuff. Now, when I say stuff, I mean there are exposed burials and strange kind of encrusted details in some of these rocks which really don't make sense as normal rocks. Like this, for instance. Now, this is a colour-enhanced clip here. I'll show you where to look. It's up here, right? I think this is a dolmen, or at least part of a structure that may have been a burial structure or something else, because we have, it's kind of perched on this here. We've got a rock here. We've got this central part here, which is very large, but has some very complex details in it, right? And then we have another flat kind of slab placed on top. So this looks like it was put together, and a lot of it's collapsed down. And I think a lot of this was a structure of some sort, either a burial structure or building. I don't know, but it looks, there's some really complex stuff here, and a lot of it does not look natural. This is insane, right? I mean, you've got a rock there with this perched on it and that perched on top perfectly, kind of fitted on top. There seems to be a tiny gap there, maybe. But in the colour one, you can see it even better here. Let's go back a little bit. Look at that, you can see underneath it, you can see the sand, so you could actually crawl underneath there and out the other side. And it's perched on this rock here, and then we got this central part, which is very large. I'm not sure how big this is. This is at least a few feet wide, I would say, maybe 3, maybe 4, I'm not sure. So it's not huge, but it looks like part of a structure that's fallen down, and this is somehow still there. And the rest of it's all kind of collapsed. Very strange. And you can see different types of rock together. Now, this isn't natural, because if you look at the texture and details in this rock, it's very different to this one. This one here is a different type of rock to this, okay? Because if this was part of the same thing and it was just a natural structure, this would all have the same weathering and the same striations and lines going through it and texture to it, okay? Which it does not have. This is completely different. And we have a different sort of texture in this one altogether here as well, although it's more similar to this, right? So this looks like it's been placed on top. This is different. So we've got different types of rock and material here, or at least different strata that have been put together. Okay, this is not the same as that. There's no geological explanation for this other than the fact that someone had put that on top, right? You can actually see the difference in the actual rock detail itself, okay? This stuff here is almost like slate. It's probably the local mudstone or something. That's what it looks like. There's loads of this everywhere. And it's always got these long kind of almost wood-like grain structures to it. Long, straight grain to it. This does not have that long, straight grain and splits in it. Okay? This is different. So that is not the same. This is very different. It's highly complex and looks like it's actually made of different pieces of rock stuck together. Okay? This is an artificial structure. Like I said, the top does not match the middle. And the way it stood up is very, very strange. Let's look at it in context up here. Right? You can see it there, and you can see all these pieces around it which look like they may have been joined together. And a lot of them still are, like here. So there was some kind of structure here and it's all kind of collapsed, right? Very strange. Then we have, there's some weird stuff going on here. This block here has got this weird arm kind of thing sticking out of it, which is really weird. I have no idea what it is. Got this weird arm thing here sticking out of this kind of squarish block, which looks like kind of concrete or something, right? Really weird. Don't know what that represents, but it looks very, very strange. And then we have another skull or helmet or something here. Now, I published this on Facebook, I think, last night. I don't know whether this is a skull or helmet. It's very hard to tell from this distance. It's quite a long way off. It's quite large. Got two eyes, a crest on the top, a snout area, and what looks like a mouth with some kind of teeth detail there, like a big tooth or something. Very odd. Is this a helmet? It's got this kind of almost like a cheek guard detail there, right? Like you would get on a full face battle helmet, almost. So it could be either. I don't know. I've got a close-up of it here. I'll put a clip of that in here with an enhancement and brighten it right up so you can see it better. There's the raw clip. You can see it quite well in the raw clip, actually. Right? You can see that detail. It's all there. And when you brighten it up, let's go back a bit. If you get too close, it gets blurred. There we are. You can see that there is like a cheek guard here, a mouth part, a snout area or nose area with two dark eye sockets or eye holes, okay, or orbits. And there's a crest on top. Now, a lot of the skulls I've shown in the area are kind of ape-like, and they have these large crests like gorillas do on top, right? So this may be one of those, but it could also be a helmet because we've got a cheek, what looks like a cheek guard here. That highlight there tells me that might be a helmet. So, answers on the postcard with that one, I'm not really sure. There's not quite enough detail. We're a little bit too far back. This is a way off, so see, the rover's right down here because you can see this stuff here, right? And it hasn't zoomed in that far. It's just close to most of this stuff. And it's right at the back. So this is probably quite large. I would say this is over a foot plus. Not 2 foot, but 14 inches, maybe 15, 16. What I will say is, if you look at these, you're going to find a load of crazy stuff, right? I'm only pointing out the very first things I spotted. These are new images that I've only recently done, and I've only recently started going through them properly because I've been so busy. And often what I'll do, I'll make the Gigapan, I'll do a quick search, I'll put the Gigapan up, mark my first finds, and then leave it for a few days, and then come back and let other people find stuff as well. And they often put little markers in here. If you do put markers on here, don't put big squares and circles around things. Just use a little star or question mark like this, okay? And put your name in there. And often you will find stuff that I've missed because I only really go for the most obvious things. And when you're making videos, you can't just show everything. You just don't have enough time. There's also this weird thing on the end here, which looks like some kind of weird bone here, encased in this kind of thing. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I don't really know what it is. It's a bit dark in this image here, so I put the raw clip of it there as well. This is crazy. It's like a giant sort of bone or something here. I really can't work out what it is, so some of you may be able to work it out. There's some very weird stuff going on here, and a lot of it's all kind of stuck together and encased in mud that's dried out and hardened and literally turned to stone, right? Then we have this. Now, this is Jezero crater. This is the Perseverance rover. And what we have here is quite a narrow view, looking sort of southwest, I think, in Jezero crater. And we have these mounds in the background, which we've seen before. This one here, and this one here. We've seen that a bunch of times before. It's the one with the weird line coming down there, right? And there's some weird fragments in here. Now, this stuff's weird. I mean, we got a bunch of stuff here that's really strange, with what looks like some carved detail in there, but it's not very clear, a bit too far away. There's a very strange kind of almost square rock here, which looks way too perfect to be natural, which looks like it was part of a structure. A lot of these were probably structures that are all now shattered, like we see everywhere on Mars. Shattered architectural fragments. Look at the shape of this. So this left side is the same shape as the right side. Now, that shouldn't really happen in natural rocks on the ground. This is being shaped, okay? And this looks like it's part of it as well. It's fallen down. So this may have been on top of that. So there could have been a column or pillar here or something. A lot of these are ruins, as I've shown before, but they're in such terrible shape, it's really hard to work out sometimes. And it really depends on how far up we are looking down. When you're looking down on a lot of this stuff from above, you can see, like I've shown before in the Ingenuity pictures, that you can see the squares and circles and hexagonal shapes of some of these buildings, right? But all we're seeing are the remains of them. From these low angles, it's not always obvious what you're looking at. But then we have weird stuff like this. Now, I've called this the buggy, I don't know why, but it looks a bit like a sort of figure in the front of this rock, which has been carved out, right? Very strange. There's not much detail here. So I put a clip over here for you. The buggy. Very weird. This looks like it's carved. So we've basically got a strange shaped rock which is split in half. But at the front here, we have some kind of figurine or something, kind of figure carved into the front of it, right? Very strange. I really don't know what to make of that at all, so you can check that out. If you use the magnifier, there's not a lot of detail in it because it's quite a way off. Let's get a bit closer. So you're not going to see any sort of fine detail there. It's all kind of eroded. But there seems to be a head there with ears and a sort of arm coming down and a body here. But I could be wrong. This may be some kind of optical trick. I don't know. But there's something very strange about it. So that's weird. And then there was this. Now, I thought this was just a rock, like a lot of these tend to look like initially. And I thought, hang on a minute. Is that a skull? And then another one here, and then another one here, and then another very strange elongated one here. It kind of looks like it. These may be carved and just very eroded and pitted. This one looks like it's carved. And these are probably carved as well, but who knows? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just kind of encrusted and sort of semi-fossilized, mummified, like a lot of the ones I've shown before. This is insane. And if you look at it closely, if I go back a little bit and use the magnifier for you, you've got a nose, two eye sockets, an upper lip and a chin there, and a huge elongated cranial shape to it. Look at that. This is absolutely insane. I'll show you where to look. It's marked on here. So with this one, we've got the raw version and the enhanced version at the top, okay? And that weird bunch of things is there. and you can see in the enhanced one at the top, which has had a bit of contrast added, you can see it quite clearly. See the nose and the two eyes and the shape, and you can see this bunch of them here, and that looks like a skull. And when you get in really close, you can actually see teeth on these. So a bit vague, these, unfortunately. They're a bit of a distance away from the camera. Then there was this. This is really weird. This looks like a skull here, right? With weird shaped eye sockets. Got one there, one there. There's the mouth. There's the nose. But it's joined to this thing, right? Let me show you the enhanced clip I've got over here. This is what I was working on this morning till about 5 o'clock. This is crazy. And I really don't know what kind of thing it represents, but it's very, very strange. Like a lot of the stuff we see on Mars, they're representing creatures and things that we don't understand, right? So don't expect to understand everything you look at. You've got to be open-minded to a lot of this stuff. It's really, really, it's a bit of a mind bender, a lot of this stuff, because you're trying to work out whether this represents a human or an intelligent being or an animal or something. But it represents something, right? And you can see a nose ridge coming down here. We've got an eye socket here, eye socket there, and a mouth here, right? And what kind of looks a bit like a jaw here on the ground with teeth here, pointy bits, maybe, all right? But look at it, look at the shape of this thing. So this kind of looks like it's carved, but it may not be. This may be an actual skull here. But, I mean, could you have a skull that shape? Probably not. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But, as I've shown in Gale Crater as well, a lot of the monumental statues look like they've had concrete poured over them, or wet clay, right, or chucked all over the top of them. And then it's kind of hardened and solidified, so that a lot of these things look like they're kind of stuck together with loads of other clay material, right? I don't rule anything out, because however weird something looks, you've got to remember there was probably a cataclysm here, and a lot of stuff was thrown around, as well as the statues and buildings being obliterated largely, the taller ones anyway. A lot of the lower fragments on the ground are in quite good condition because they were just lower down. And I think a lot of mud, there was mudslides and probably a tsunami as well, and a whole bunch of tsunamis in the area. And a lot of stuff kind of just gets congealed together and then dries out. And then the softer material kind of erodes away, but some of it sticks to it still. You know what I mean? So you get complex things going on the ground. Mud-encrusted, kind of fossilized technofossils and all sorts of weird stuff like vehicles with mud stuck to them, which I've shown before, covered in mud and then dried out. So it kind of forms like a crust of concretion, okay? Much like that little plant I showed you last week. These images were only taken 2 days ago, right? This is the very latest. Now, these black and white images, unlike the colour ones, are not messed with, right? They are good. In other words, I don't see any signs of obfuscation. They're raw. They're the raw black and white kind of basic images. And they're not messed with as far as I know. I mean, I'm sure some of them probably are, but from what I can tell, they look good to me. I can't see any discrepancies, okay? And we've got some crazy stuff here. Now, this is just a bit further along from this area, okay? I think the rover's moving to the left here, right? And now we've come from 390 and then 398. We've got all this stuff like this dolmen. I'm calling it a dolmen, but I think it's part of a structure here. So this is 398. So a few days after this, 5 days after that, this was taken. So it's moved along again, but we're in the same area, okay? We just moved across to the left from where I just showed you. And we have this. We've got this crazy thing sticking up with amazing texture on it. And it's probably just a rock, but it looks crazy, right? There's some crazy stuff here. And then we go along here, along this ridge, Now I've really brightened this up because I wanted to see in these shadows here, because we have what looks like some burial chambers. One here. There's probably loads of these. Now I've shown these before. Often they're in rows, right? I think they buried the way they buried a lot of the people in this area, especially probably the richer people, not the really poor people, but the sort of middle class at least, were put in these chambers. And I've shown these before where you have rows of chambers. They're quite irregularly made. They're just kind of chiseled out of the rock. And their skulls were put in there. I don't think their whole body was put in them. Just the skull, and perhaps the bones were separated and just chucked in with all the others. Okay? So it's like a crypt. The burial chamber, right? And this is what they used to do. And I've shown this before where we have chambers like this. There's a little niche here. A niche. This looks like a little burial niche. There may have been a head or something placed in there, or a figurine, right? We got holes in this stuff. This is all hollow, right? Crazy. I literally uploaded it about 20 minutes ago, right? Just before this video. And I was so excited by it. I'm just giving you my initial impressions of this image. There's a lot of detail in here, right? And it's highly complex stuff going on. Some of it looks like concrete. Some of these look like burials, exposed chambers, right? And domes and dolmens, like I showed in the previous one, that dolmen-shaped thing. We've got this thing here that looks like it may be a sort of sarcophagus cover made of stone with a head there, and the body here, and it's placed on top of something. There may be a burial inside there, who knows? We have highly complex detail and little niches, right? And chambers here, 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 which are all kind of broken up, but still in, you know, some of it still in probably sort of semi-working order, right? Okay? Chambers. And there may have been another row of chambers below this. There may have been dozens of them, right? They're about a foot square. So big enough to put a fairly large skull in, I would say, right? And it's just amazing, the detail in here. Now, even though these are black and white images, I mean, this is how they come. I'll show you here. This is how they come. Now, a lot of people complain about the rover images, but if some are bad and some aren't, right? These are good. There's loads of detail in these, right? And all you have to do, there's the one with a niche in it there. Let's have a look at it. They've got a grid on them, right? Now, that grid is what you get on totally raw images, right? Black and white, black plate, sort of black and white plate, right? With a grid over it. And that says to me that they haven't been messed with because the grid's still on them, right? Now, in order to mess with an image, you'd have to remove the grid, mess with the image, and then put the grid back on again, which is nigh on impossible, right? For archaeological purposes, black and white images are actually better. And you can always colorise them yourself after, but because the shadows are much more neat and tight, and the details are much tighter in a black and white image, because you haven't got these weird fuzzy brown colours that they give us that actually make the images look a lot worse and a lot harder to look at, okay? I will be making some shorter videos coming up this week, some little short 1 or 2 minute ones in between my longer videos, because I know a lot of you like the little short ones, but most people seem to like the longer ones, okay? So there we are. So check out the links below. There'll be lots of links for all these gigapans, and I'll do some clips of some of this stuff as well. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button, and clips coming up now.